Okay, today I'm going to take apart the Safariland Comp-3 jet loader, or maybe more commonly referred to as a speed loader, but I think technically they call it a jet loader. Why you'd want to take it apart: maybe it's got some dirt or debris inside not functioning right and you want to check it out, clean it. Some fellas make modifications to these for competition. I haven't modified them yet. I figure I'm going to see how they work out in factory configuration before I start doing other modifications to them. I had sent an email to Safariland and asked them if they could give me some instructions how to take this thing apart, because it's not readily apparent. I didn't get any response from them, so I had to try to figure it out on my own. So let me say, what I'm doing here is not from any procedure I've been able to find. Everything I had to sort of figure out on my own, so take that as you might with caution if you decide to try this on your own. It is a little tricky, so just beware. Parts can go flying, and it's real critical how this thing goes back together to make it function properly again. There's some things that I'll point out that you need to be aware of. So let me bring you in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, the first thing I'll demonstrate is that this thing is functional here. Those are dummy rounds there that I made. So we'll do the same check, make sure they release after we take it apart and put it back together. Okay, now when I went to take this apart, first thing I noticed is this pin over here. That's not the key to disassembling the whole thing. That only gets this plunger out here and the spring behind it. So I'm not going to take that out now. I'll do that later once the rest of this stuff is off of here and we have more room to get at that thing. So the next thing you'll notice is that there is a hole over here. Hopefully you'll see that in the light. And there's a roll pin in there. But on the opposite side, there's no hole. This is some wherever they molded the plastic, that's a mark. That's not a hole there. So there's a hole here with a roll pin in it. No hole on the opposite side. That's commonly referred to as blind pinned. So basically, you can, when it's manufactured, they can install the roll pin, but now how do you get it out? Because you can't drive it out. There's no hole on the other side. Okay, so the first modification I had to make to this was to get a hole on this side so I can push that roll pin out. So what I did is what I have to do is transfer this hole to the opposite side, and what I'm going to use is this 1mm drill bit here. It's the smallest drill bit I have in inventory. My standard size drill bits down to 1/16 are too big, so 1mm is the only thing I have that fits this. What I'm going to do is use this bit to transfer the hole to the opposite side. Okay, now I have the hole transferred to the opposite side using a smaller drill bit, and what I did is found another drill bit that fits the original hole. The best fit I found was 3/32, so let's assume this is a 3/32 roll pin in there. Again, I'm assuming, but that seemed to be the best fit. And what I'll do is use that pilot hole that I made with the 1mm drill bit, and then start working it in the pilot hole to enlarge it so that the hole will be big enough to push that roll pin out. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I've got my 3/32 hole now made on the side where there was no hole, and I can see through it there. So now we're ready to take that roll pin out, and this is where we got to start paying attention, because not knowing what's inside, we want to make sure it goes back together and is still functional. So I got this 3/32 roll pin punch. This one's from Brownells. It's got the little point on there so it stays centered on your roll pin. If you've done any work on ARs, you've probably got one of these in your toolbox. So since this is just plastic, I think it'll come out pretty easy. I'm just going to use the force of my hand here. Okay, there's our roll pin, and take out the punch. Now this cap here should come off. Okay, next is this sleeve. Now notice over here there's this inner plastic shaft or whatever has a flat on it, so I guess that's got to go back the way it comes apart. I also noticed this spring is engaged into this piece right here. We can see where the spring pokes through. It's also engaged down in this piece over here. So let's see, let's pull this apart here. Okay, there's our spring. This looks like it'll come out of there. Okay, now here's this deal. Let's see, let's try this punch, see if that'll push that through there. I'm going to take a look at this real quick to make sure we get it back together the right way, because I think this is critical here. This flat side is going to be oriented over in this direction. I'm not going to make a mark on here. I'm just going to remember that hole where the spring was engaged is the side the flat is pointing towards. So let's see if I can get that out. Okay, there's that deal. Now you also notice I'm holding this plunger down here. That's going to come out. It appears to be the same on both sides, but I'm going to leave it the way it came out with this flat up over here. Now that thing will come out, and it looks like there's a spring in there. That goes with that guy, and this appears to be one piece here. So there we go. I think that's about as far as we can go taking this thing apart. Let's see if we can get it back together. So we'll put this spring back in here. This plunger the same way it came out. And then this guy here with that thing up. Now that thing, I'm referring to the hole where the spring engaged over here, related to this flat. So I can see my hole through there for this pin. This isn't a roll pin, this is just a pin. Let's see if I can get this in there by hand. Yeah, goes in real easy. Okay, that's back in. Let's put this back together here. Okay, and then that spring's going to engage back into this piece down here in its hole. Okay, now this is where we've got to pay attention again. The flat on this little shaft here is not lined up with the flat here. So what we got to do is put a little clockwise tension on this thing here. Get that re-engaged over here. Clockwise tension, if you've used these, you know that's the way it's wound up when you go to put your rounds in there. So I'm going to wind it up, get it on that flat. Okay, it started. And I can almost see the hole there. I'm going to use this roll pin punch to get this lined up. Still a lot of whack here. There I go by hand. Yeah, okay. That's lined up. Next we got this guy. And then this end cap here. Something to notice, the hole that we transferred here, the holes aren't let's say 180 degrees apart. It looks like it's a little off center the way it worked out. In other words, that means this cap will only fit one way, not turned 180 degrees. So that looks like that's the direction it's going to work. Put that on there. Check our lineup again. Everything's lined up. The roll pin. I'm just going to try to get it even on both sides. It seems a little like something may not be quite lined up there. Okay. Alright, let's see if this will hold rounds. Click. That's nice. That'll work. Okay. So that looks like that'll work for me. Again, if you try to do this, just be careful, pay attention how everything comes apart so you get it back together the right way, because you can get things out of whack and this thing won't work when you need it to. And also be careful not to lose any of your springs, nothing goes flying around. Overall, it wasn't too difficult to do.